Hi, this is Ben Kalkman. I'm the owner of Rocket Media, and I wanted to take a few minutes to share with you some of the ideas I had around the concept of marketing strategies to navigate through economic disruption. If I can change the screen, I'd like to. There we go. So, in that consideration of marketing strategies to navigate through economic disruption, I kind of had really three buckets or three themes. I'm calling them marketing themes as I thought about the way things are in the current conditions with this COVID-19, this kind of disaster that we're living through. So with those current marketing conditions and consumers' behaviors, here's the three that I came up with. So Hibernate is the first kind of theme or grouping, if you will, that businesses kind of fall into. And of course, these are either forced by causation, pretty much it's out of their control, and they need to kind of hunker down for a bit. So that's one theme to consider. The second being pivot. You can't operate you normally would, and you know, basically your cheese has been moved and you need to adjust. And the third being maintain. These are companies that can continue to business as usual, but certainly with some twists that you can't ignore and you must adjust for. So let's talk about the first one, the Hibernate theme. The Hibernate theme, this means you really need to reduce the overhead and slow that bleed that you're receiving, that you're kind of experiencing from the deduction in your business overall. These typically are the retail shops, entertainment, travel, sports, or other similar kind of businesses. And again, either by force or causation, it's pretty much out of their control that they need to hunker down for a bit. They've kind of been locked down. The government said, hey, you're not allowed to do business. People just aren't able to come to their stores because of that reason. And those typically are those kind of shops. You most likely are focused rather on controlling your costs, saving where you can, and being hopeful that for a speedy recovery, which we currently all are, for sure. So as you think about this particular theme, there's a couple strategies or a few strategies that I think are relevant to look at. One would be, of course, working on what I'm calling your comeback plan or your post-COVID-19 plan. How will you rise from this? What will you change? What will it be like in the future for your business as we come out of this type of recession-ish type time we have? And how will you let your customers know? So that comeback plan is really your strategy, your game plan of how you'll put that together. Of course, finances will be tight, and the demand for your services, or these services in this theme rather, are probably going to be really high. People miss you. People miss the things that these businesses provide. Things like shopping and travel and getting out of their homes and gathering in groups for places they want to go. That's the kind of things that this group is kind of these services they provide. We have to be careful though, because of course, as we come out of this, we're going to see a lot of hesitancy to spend on things that are considered luxury or non-essential, right? And so even though we'll have these opportunities that come back and we're desiring it, I think it'll be a different kind of beat for sure. So we have to think about that. So we'll come to some tactics to consider, this post-COVID plan tactics, if you will, for this hibernation theme. You really need to revise your messaging to relate to the COVID customer. How can you, or how will you communicate to the needs to adjust to be relatable? Having relevant promotions that make it easy for your services to be used. Consumers are going to be looking for affordable options. I just checked today, as of today, right now the unemployment rate is just crazy high in the United States, and so that's going to be something that we're going to have to adjust to as well. It'll be important to keep a strong brand presence as well for this group. Even though you're pretty much hunkered down and you're kind of in lockdown mode, now's the time to make sure that you are relevant within your brand, saying things about, sharing relatable messages, words of encouragement, stories of how it was when things were great to remind us of the businesses and times we had, but also to talk about what it could be like in the future. Perhaps you can project that as you kind of put your plan together and decide of ways, or figure out ways rather to visually and show that type of experience so people can look forward to it. And of course, be helpful but not forgotten. Do what you can to support the essential services and do your part, but really that's kind of how this particular group, hibernation theme is going to be structured. The second being the pivot theme. All right, so you're able to keep your lights on, but you need to pivot how you operate and adjust with this group. These are the companies that are like restaurants, professional services, schools, or other similar type of industries that are not able to operate as they always have because of the conditions that have now been presented to them. Profits are most likely way down for most of these businesses, so controlling your cost is a must. You most likely have had to let a few of your team members go or change the way you work, and that's unfortunate, of course. But the reality is you're able to pivot and you're able to adjust. And so we are seeing a lot of really great creative things that specifically restaurants are doing, or other industries that we find that are just moving and adjusting how best they can. So obviously the strategy is that. Adjust your product offering and messaging so that you're aligning yourself with what you can do today. Look to do that. One of the best ways to do that is really to look through the lens of the consumer and figure out how you can meet them in the now. So as you kind of sit there and noodle about what your products and services are, wonder if you can visualize sitting at home and wanting the services or products that your business provides, and how can you accommodate to make that happen for them, whatever that might be. If you get creative with that, you can probably adjust and come up with some ideas to make that happen. Take advantage of digital platforms. Certainly that's a great thing to do right now as well. There's lots of things that we can do to do that. But then also the last thing on this particular piece is for strategy is take some time to look past today and create your own comeback plan. That's also a very important thing, because even though you're adjusting and pivoting today, as things go back to whatever normal is, or normal-ish, right? And I don't know that it'll ever be the way it was, but as we get back into the ability to be around each other and have more freedoms again, out of our houses basically, you need to be prepared for that. Companies that are planning ahead and looking to that model are going to be way more effective in how they operate. So some tactics. As you think about that plan, have a plan A and a plan B. For the future when you're kind of considering that, because you want to be able to adjust as things evolve, and it's so much easier to have a plan ready than to be on your heels and trying to pivot. I think a lot of us fell into that with this last month or so as we've adjusted ourselves for this COVID-19 kind of period that we're in, and if we weren't prepared, which many of us weren't, we really felt that, and that's where we are today. So don't let that happen to you again. Spend some time now, since you may have more time to do that. Consider what partnerships you can establish. If you're a restaurant, partnering up with a delivery company. All kinds of different ways you can kind of adjust your business to promote that. And then, of course, as promotions concerned, create promotions that make sense, that enhance your pivot, and that make it enticing for folks that are either concerned about leaving their homes for the right reasons, or just wanting to get your services and products that they can get. Definitely utilize the digital platforms, as we mentioned. That's a great way for you to advertise and promote. Everybody's at home, everybody's online, everybody's consuming content like crazy. So now's a great time to make sure you do that and communicate often. I'm recommending to our clients that we communicate at least once a week in some platform in some way, so they can get that above. And again, above all, maintain a brand presence. So even though you've pivoted and you're doing things, it's important, just like the Hibernation group, to make sure you're getting your brand out there and communicating that in a way that is meaningful and compassionate in today's world. So that's the pivot theme group. Last one here is the maintain theme. So this one is you're an essential service or support for services for essential services. Basically, you're able to continue to help. So these are the grocery stores, the core medical companies, the home delivery service companies, or just any industries in that line, things that we are using today that we continue to use that are coming to our homes or that we're able to go to still. And so by now, most of these companies that fall in this kind of theme or this grouping have already pivoted their strategy, or perhaps they maybe still are working on it, but people are relying on you for essential services, so you really need to kind of adjust what you're doing to support that. And again, grocery stores is a great example. They have adjusted their ways tremendously to help make it easier. Yet at the same time, when you go to a grocery store, at least around where I'm at, there's just a lot of people that are still there. And so there's still things to be done there to make that more effective for us. So strategies. Adjust your messaging to be more compassionate. Because you're able to be in business, you definitely need to speak to that and build the trust of the consumers. They have really no choice to come to the grocery store. I'm using that as an example still here. But there's lots you can do to kind of ease their concerns. And communicate your brand promise to customers so they know how you'll protect them and protect your team for that matter. Don't forget how important that brand promise is, and make sure that's been adjusted to support today's times as well. And then, of course, be supportive, be helpful, and be careful. And how you kind of put your strategies together. It's an obvious thing, but it's something certainly a lot of people are not taking into reflect. So tactics: develop services that assist the needs of consumers. So adjusting those things. Do not take advantage of the situation. Be ethical, be generous. In any time of need, there's always those that move past that line of what's right and what's not so right. Use common sense and make sure we're doing the right things. Create promotions with the financial constraints in mind. There's a lot of people that are out of work. There's a lot of people that are really living not even paycheck to paycheck right now, that are just barely getting by. So we want to be sensitive to that. It's okay to not make a large profit right now. I mean, everybody wants to make money because that's part of business, but being considerate of others and making sure that we're helping the humankind is really important right now. But on that last point, it's okay to grow. Just make sure you do it for the right reasons and you're doing it in a way that's healthy and adjustable for the current conditions. So the tactics, there's really 4 that I kind of put together that are relevant to all these themes in really any industry as you think about them. A messaging plan. We really need to make sure we have this quarantine phase messaging plan in place. What are we saying today to kind of help ease the minds of those? Consider the channels that might be best for your consumers in their moment of need. And then as we move past this climbing out of recession phase, what's your communication plan going to be for that, for messaging? How will you adjust? How will you pivot for that? What are you going to offer differently? Recession plan or recession-proof your plan? What can you offer coming out of the recession? Will you change your products or your services in any way? Is there some way of communicating that would be different that helps recession-proof you so that you can be a bit more resilient? A very important next one is building your funnel. That's something that a lot of different companies, and myself included, talk about. The more opportunity you have, the greater the probability of future success is for your business. So really work on that and building solutions that can support that. And then communicate frequently. The more frequent, smaller sound bites positions you as a leader, and that's something that you really want to focus on. So at least once a week, be sending out communications to your customers so that they know where you are, promotions that you're providing, opportunities you're able to help, or even just examples of how things have you been able to do for other people. Now's a great time to get that up and running for lots of people. And then don't forget your team. This is an important one, and of course, for myself as a business owner, this is something that I hold near and dear to my heart because I've got an amazing team. Internal marketing is equally important right now, so thank your team members and support them. Surprise them. Communicate to them almost every day if you possibly can, and try to maintain your community. Do things like virtual hangouts, as you're seeing here as us in our Monday team meeting. We're all virtual now, right? So we're taking advantage of technologies as so many other people are. We have, I think it's every 2 days in our office, we have a kind of just a happy hour type hangout through this mechanism where we sit around and just chat about things. Often business comes up, but often it doesn't. We sent out a kind of a care package gift box to all of our team members. We offer a lot of benefits and snacks, and so they're probably missing those things. And so we sent a care package with some rocket stuff just to kind of let them know and kind of feel a little bit eased into this moment. I can tell you this for sure. A gift right now means infinitely more than it did a month ago. And so don't forget about your team and make sure they're part of your marketing plan. It's hard to spend money when you're trying to cut, but also small little things like even just a nice little note on a card that you send to them in the mail. Getting that in the mail would be such a surprise to most people right now. So keep that in mind. Don't forget about your team. So consider life after the pandemic here. What do you miss most? What will that be like post-pandemic? I bring these up, and I came up with just a few things because I thought it'd be important for us to kind of consider that for a second. The value of a hug or handshake. Humans are never going to hug the same way again. It's going to be a whole different experience for us because we're missing that, right? And we're going to see that. It won't last forever because all good things eventually fade its importance. But right now it's becoming a big thing, right? Because we don't get to do it. Shaking someone's hand is like forbidden, right? So when we're back to those days, I think we'll value that even more. Going outside. Who knew going outside could be so good? Perhaps we'll rebel against technology after all this is over, or adjust in some way so that we're utilizing it in a different way because we're going to be so used to it now, right? And then parks are going to get really busy. Where I live, we have some amazing parks here in Gilbert, Arizona, and I'm sure parks where you live are going to just be highly attended because people can finally go back out to them, right? Working from home, micromanagers all over the world are super pissed right now at coronavirus because they have no control over what's going on here because everybody's working from home. And so therefore we're relying on people to be professionals, to be adults, as we all should be, right? And coronavirus has kind of shown us that working from home works, at least for many of us. That's certainly for me a shift in my perspective too. I've never been against working from home, but I've always had a little hesitancy. And I've certainly burned that past, and so I have a lot more confidence in it now just because my team's doing so well at it. Think about schools and colleges in the same thing. Will they be the same? Are we seeing that we can have school and attend college remotely, that maybe we don't necessarily have to have the brick and mortar of a school establishment for us to get a college degree? Will that change things? This has definitely opened the eyes to a lot of people from that. Washing your hands. We appreciate we appreciate washing our hands after this? I'm sure we absolutely will. The gift of soap can save our lives, and that was an idea that was kind of lost before these coronavirus times. Thankful for our jobs. Just having a job is going to seem incredible when this is over. Keep in mind, like right now, this day, the unemployment rate is higher than it's ever been. I think today alone, it's like 6.6 million people that have filed for unemployment as of what I've looked at today. So having a job in itself is something that we're going to truly appreciate. We've all had to go at least give up something during this time in some way, and some of us a lot more than others. The idea of getting a bonus will become a privilege. The coronavirus has reminded us of that again, that these things we've taken for granted are really, really thankful for, especially having a job. That financial buffer, my final one here, the amount of buffer that we need to survive in a challenging time like this is going to change after all this. We're going to be thinking about this as we design our businesses and our structures. How many of us are caught off guard by not having enough savings to support these kind of times? Many of us. And we'll never save or invest the same way again. I think we're going to have a renewed appreciation and interest and desire for that. So all these together makes me ask this one question. How will you market post this pandemic time? Use your time now to think ahead and maybe answer some of these questions. And this is just a small list of things that I came up with after pandemic time. But what other things can you think of that are relevant to your business or are relevant to society that are going to bring in opportunities for us to change our business, help the consumer in a different way for what we've been doing before? So think about that and plan that accordingly in your plans. Finally, my last point here is look for opportunities. Google recently, in this particular case, announced that they're providing $800+ million in Google grant money available. Of course, this is to all SMBs that are eligible if you've been running Google ads over the past year, so that's a key point. I gave a website, one of our websites here, /Google Grant. It's a page we have that's just talking about the process. We're trying to be a conduit for our clients so that they can find the information. Google's really running this. We have nothing really to do with it, but we're a conduit of communication for them as a premier partner. And so we want to make sure we share that. So no matter what business you're in or where you are, this is a resource you can check out and follow if you need be. So that's what I have for you today. I appreciate you taking some time listening to my little bit. Again, this is kind of high-level content, I know, but hopefully it's giving you some ideas and maybe sparked some interest of how you can change your business. I open myself up to help any of you that need help. I only service a certain niche in the market, but I've always wanted to help other people as well. So that's why I'm sharing this information today. So thank you for your time, and stay safe.